believe this one.
I can't believe it either.
You're right. I've already heard the story. I can't believe it. This is just my observations that this might be an entrance, this might be an exit, this might be into his eye. And he's acting like he has a serious head injury, which would make sense. So, what's your
You guys
name?
confirm.
Ryan.
Yeah, we'll take them.
I don't know why.
Yeah,
it's
we
like
can tell.
Did that all? Has it been like that before, or it just happened tonight?
like this for like a day or so.
So it happened what? The other night?
I don't know.
You don't know what happened. Were there guns around?
This kid Eric did it. I don't know how he did it exactly. I might have been shot. I don't know. I really don't know.
Are you waiting on
I don't know.
It looks like it went right through, huh?
Yeah, it might have. I don't know.
Hello my lovelies and welcome back to my channel and welcome back to Slaughter Sunday. For those of you that don't know, my name is Sally and what I do here is I research the shit ton out of true crime cases, mysteries, ghost stories and anything that I find interesting or strange, really. If you're someone that is like me and is interested, intrigued, even slightly obsessed with any of those subjects, then please subscribe to my channel and hit the bell button to be notified when I upload a new video. Also, if you are here just to be cruel, to be nasty, just to simply troll me or my subscribers, then just don't, okay? Just leave, just go away, nobody wants you here, and I'm just not going to stand for that kind of bullshit. So your comment will be deleted, you will be blocked, and it's just easier for everyone if you don't bother. It costs nothing to be kind. Okay? So, now that's all the boring crap out of the way, let's get into today's case. And today's case is one of those cases that makes you sit and like question stuff. I saw it when I was watching another YouTuber called Mr. Ballon. I'm guessing a lot of you have already heard of him because he's quite popular. But Mr. Ballon is my go-to guy when I just want to veg out on the sofa of a Thursday afternoon when I don't have work and just watch something that's going to be really, really interesting. And this case really caught my attention because it actually had me sitting up in my seat at the end in complete shock and disgust. I will link Mr. Ballon's channel down below in case you don't know who he is. Go over and subscribe to him. And I just want to say a quick thank you to him for doing this case because it's obviously done me wonders because I'm doing a case for it for myself. So thank you, Mr. Ballon. I love you. Keep doing what you're doing. So today we're going to look into the bizarre case of Ryan Waller. Have you heard of this? Well, if you haven't, then you need to hold on to your hats, lads and ladies, because this case is wild. So with all that being said, let's take a deep dive into this case now and let's see what happened to Ryan Waller, shall we? For this video though, it's going to be done slightly differently because there is a lot of video footage that goes along with this and not so much a lot of background information. So I'm going to go through what happened and then at the end we'll discuss what I think. So it's Christmas 2006. Ryan Waller, 18, and his girlfriend Heather Quan, 21, were spending a normal Christmas together in Phoenix, Arizona. Heather and Ryan had been dating for a little while and on the 23rd of December she had gone over to his house to watch films and just eat pizza. Just genuinely hang out with your boyfriend, like many others do, every night. Unfortunately, though, nobody ever heard from either of them from that day until the day they were found. The couple had made plans to go and see family on the 25th, which would be Christmas Day. They had arranged to go to Ryan's father's for Christmas dinner, but when the 25th rolled around, his father was waiting for them to arrive, excited to see them, but when they didn't arrive, he wasn't initially too worried, but the longer he waited, the more concerned he became. The following day, he called the police and asked them to conduct a welfare check on the couple, worried something might have happened to them. The police arrived at the house where Ryan lived and knocked on the door, but nobody answered. They continued to try and get an answer at the home, knocking on the door, looking through the windows, but they couldn't get any response from anybody inside. After several minutes, they decided it was essential to force entry into the home because they were concerned for the safety of both Ryan and Heather. But it turned out the door was actually unlocked, so they basically just opened the door. On the other side, though, they found a truly horrifying and confusing scene. Ryan was stood on the other side of the door, staring into space with a huge black eye over his left eye, and it appeared he had taken a really good hit to his face. They tried to ask Ryan questions, but he wasn't even responding, and they were trying to talk to him, but he didn't seem to even acknowledge that they had even entered his property. While they were doing this, the police kind of glanced over his shoulder into the living area, which was behind him, because he was stood in, like, the hallway. And this is where they could see a young woman laying on the sofa. One of the officers continued trying to talk to Ryan, while others went into the living room to see the young woman, to see if they could talk to her. And this young woman turned out to be Heather. Heather was actually, and sadly, deceased on the sofa, and actually appeared she had been there for several days. Ryan was immediately arrested and put into the back of the police car, where he sat for an hour or so while forensics and more police were called to look through the home. Now we know how these things normally go. The boyfriend or the husband or the person you're living with is normally the first suspect, and that is exactly what happened here. So I don't think at this point they necessarily did anything wrong. But the police did make many assumptions about Ryan, and one of those assumptions was that he murdered his girlfriend and the black eye was a result of her fighting for her life. After a little while, the police took Ryan to the police station and they take him into an interrogation room for questioning. By now it's about 5 a.m. and Ryan is clearly in pain and he's very confused. That's a word you're going to hear a lot today, the word confused. By now he was wearing sort of a white kind of hazmat suit kind of thing, but not with the mask on. And I assume that's what came from the police because they would have taken his clothes for forensic testing. His feet were obviously completely bare as well because they would have taken his shoes and his socks away from him also to again be tested. So I'm going to talk a little bit now about the interrogation video, and I will insert the odd clip here and there for you to see for yourself. But I will also link the interrogation video down below. It's a little long to watch, but if you have enough time, I really suggest that you watch it because it's really, really, really interesting. So Ryan enters the room. He's directed by two police officers and he takes a seat at the interrogation table. You can see how badly his face is injured, even though the quality of the video isn't great. You can clearly see he's got an injury to his nose and he's got a horrendous black eye. Initially he just sits on the chair, he's moaning and groaning, and then he notices some handcuffs that are attached to the table. This is actually a standard practice, and some police will handcuff suspects to the table in order to keep themselves and others safe. But Ryan wasn't even handcuffed at this point. He wasn't handcuffed when he walked into the room. They didn't handcuff him to the table. But Ryan makes a decision to handcuff himself to the table, which is a little bit odd to begin with, but that's just the start. He then lays his head on the table and starts moaning some more, but then he actually tried to get it up and leave when the handcuff actually stops him from walking away.
Yeah.
He looks down at the handcuff, he seems to be confused. He doesn't seem to even remember putting the handcuff on. He then sits back down and starts staring at a blank piece of paper that he picks up from the table. Ryan still hasn't really said much. He's just kind of whimpering, muttering under his breath. But you can clearly see that he's struggling with something, and you can clearly see that he's, again, really, really confused. A few minutes later, a man who I can only presume is a forensic specialist or a policeman comes in and starts taking photos of the bottom of Ryan's feet. Presumably this is for evidence purposes. Ryan, still very seemingly confused, complains he is tired and he just wants to go home, but he is told he can't go home. And then the detective has a brief discussion about the bruising on his face. At this point, I also need to point out that one of the detective actually does make a comment about Ryan should actually probably go and see a doctor. Whether this is a passing comment or a way to get Ryan to talk about what happened, we don't know. But it's actually a very important part of this conversation, and I want you to remember that for later. About 20 to 25 minutes after the first detective leaves, a new detective enters the room, and this is where the interrogation of Ryan finally starts. This detective pulls up a chair close to Ryan and asks him if he knows why he's there. Ryan responds that he doesn't know, and he's clearly getting more and more frustrated.
You know why you're down here, Ryan? You have no idea why you're down here? Okay. Ryan, I'm gonna read you something, so you could understand, because I don't know what happened. Okay, so I'm gonna read you something. Make sure you understand your rights. Okay, basically I'm gonna read you. You've seen Cops before, right? Ever seen a TV show Cops or CSI or anything like that?
Okay.
You ever seen that?
No.
You've never seen any kind of cop show? Lawyer show? Any kind of show?
Yeah.
Okay. I want you to listen up real close. Okay, you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can't be used against you in a court of law. You have the right to the presence of an attorney to assist you prior to questioning and be with you during questioning if you so desire. If you cannot afford an attorney, you have the right to have an attorney appointed for you prior to questioning. Do you understand these rights?
Yes.
The detective tells Ryan he's going to read him his rights, and again, Ryan appears confused and in some kind of physical pain. His face grimaces on several occasions. The detective also appears to be a little frustrated. He doesn't believe that Ryan doesn't understand him, and he tries to encourage him by talking about TV shows where people are read their rights. And at first, Ryan hasn't got a clue what he's talking about, but the more the detective talks about the reading of rights in cop shows and detective shows, Ryan eventually does agree that he knows what he's talking about. Then the questioning actually becomes more confusing. The detective asks Ryan a basic question about the highest grade he got to at school. So essentially in America, what we mean by that is 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade, not the grade you got in your exam. So when Ryan is asked this, Ryan says he only made it to 8th grade, which means he didn't even finish high school. Based on this information, the detective asks him if he got his GED. And a GED is a diploma that you can get if you don't finish school. To which Ryan replies no. And again, he's getting more and more confused and more frustrated with the questioning and with everything that's going on. He's still telling the detective that he just wants to go home and he wants to go to sleep. The detective is either ignoring him or he's saying you can't go home right now. Confused and assuming Ryan is lying, the detective tries to get Ryan to confirm his answers, but he can't really get a correct or less confusing response from him, so he decides to move on.
What's the highest grade you went through school?
I don't know.
You don't know the highest grade you went through?
8th?
8th grade? Did you graduate?
Yeah.
Do you have a GED?
I don't know.
You don't know what?
I don't know. I just want to go home.
Oh, you're not going to go home right now.
So what?
What's the highest grade that you completed?
B?
No. Not grade as in letter grade. I'm asking, did you graduate high school?
No.
And the highest you went was 8th grade?
Yep.
Do you know how to read and write, Ryan?
Yeah.
Throughout the entire interview, Ryan says he doesn't know a lot of the answers to these questions, and the detective really can't work out what is happening. He's trying to work out if Ryan is lying, if he's traumatised, so he just keeps asking more questions. He asks Ryan at this point if he has a girlfriend. Ryan doesn't answer this, but when the detective asks him about a girl called Heather, Ryan does say that he knows her. However, he can't give the right last name. He says many different nicknames that Heather went by, one of which was Kaimon, which just isn't true. That isn't her surname, that isn't one of her nicknames. In fact, a lot of the nicknames he gives just aren't true. Nobody's ever heard Heather being called these names. He also tells the detective Heather is a 16 or 17-year-old girl, when in fact she's actually 21. It's unclear at this point why he's claiming to not know her so well, or he's being really vague about her. He just can't seem to get the details about Heather correct within his mind.
Do you have a girlfriend? No? You know a girl named Heather?
Mm-hmm.
You know Heather's last name?
Mm-hmm.
What is Heather's last name?
The one that lives there right now?
I guess, I don't know. If her name's Heather, what's her last name?
I don't know which name she's trying to use as her last one. She's trying to have a real last as her nickname, so I don't know.
What nickname does she go by?
She probably wants the last name, Kyman.
Kyman? How would you spell that? With a K or a C?
K?
Keep going.
I don't know.
How old is Heather?
16 or 17.
And at this point in the interrogation video, because I didn't know what was going to happen, I thought to myself, is he just lying to get out of the fact that he murdered his girlfriend? And at the end of this video, I don't want to ruin it, but I'm going to talk about how the police dropped the ball. But in some sense, I do understand, because if I'd have been the detective and I've put myself in the detective's shoes, I probably would have thought the same. Which is a sad reality of the kind of society we live in, because 9 times out of 10, it is the spouse, girlfriend, boyfriend, whoever that has killed their significant other. And that's scary, but it's true. More confused, the detective tried to ask him direct questions. For example, he goes in and asked him what happened to his face. At this point, Ryan tells the detective that Heather had hit him. He says that he can't remember, but he thinks it was an accident, which further makes the police Heather had hit him in self-defence. So this just adds to their assumptions of what happened anyway.
What happened to your face?
I don't know.
You told the officer just a few minutes ago that someone hit you. Do you remember who hit you?
I don't know. I think it was Heather.
Why would Heather hit you?
I don't know. It was an accident. I forgot why.
What was an accident?
Heather's last name?
No. What was an accident?
Heather hitting me.
What did she hit you with?
Her hand in the eye.
Ryan then goes on to talk about somebody he knows called Christina. He said Christina was on the couch, but that obviously came out to be not true, because it was Heather that was on the couch. And a few minutes later, he did tell the detective that Heather was the person on the couch. By now, he appears even more tired. He's continuing to ask to go to bed, and the detective just seems to be shaking his head constantly in disbelief of what is happening and why Ryan is saying these things, because the detective is getting just as frustrated and confused as what Ryan is.
Did you guys have an argument?
Not really, no.
Not really?
Uh-uh.
What happened for her to hit you in the eye like that?
She just hit me on accident. She was giving Christina a head.
She was what?
She was helping Christina with her hair or something. I don't know.
Who's Christine?
She's on the couch.
Christina's on the couch? What's Christina's last name?
I don't know.
What does she look like?
I really don't know.
You don't know?
Uh-uh. I really don't.
What color hair does she have?
Brown?
Is it long?
Just average.
How old is Christina?
20 maybe? I don't know.
Then something happens that completely loses the detective. When confirming who Heather was, he asks Ryan to confirm that Heather is the one that hurt his eye, and then Ryan says no. After claiming earlier that she did, he now claims another girl, but you can clearly see him getting more incoherent and confused by this point, had hit him.
All right. And Heather did this to you.
What?
Your eye.
Uh-uh.
Okay, who did that to you?
Alicia.
Alicia did that to you now.
Mm-hmm. I swear. I'm not even lying, I swear.
Okay. Why would Alicia do this to you?
Why? I have no idea.
Were you mad at Alicia?
No, I don't know why. I don't know why. She probably hit it on something. I don't know.
She hit what on something?
I don't know. I don't know, man.
In the next moment, the detective tells Ryan outright that Heather is dead, and she was the girl that was found dead in his apartment. Honestly, at this point, I can tell that Ryan is quite shocked. He seems genuine and seems upset and confused as to why Heather is dead. I think his reaction to this, which I will play this because I think this is really interesting, and I think that his reaction is genuine. He's just really confused as to how she ended up there.
Hey, Ryan?
Huh? Huh?
There's a dead girl in your living room.
She's dead?
Yes.
Heather?
I don't know. I want to know what happened in your house last night.
The girl on the couch is dead?
I don't know if she's on the couch. She's dead.
I think at this point the detective probably expected Ryan to finally admit something, and he did, but not in the way Mr. Detective wanted. Ryan tells him 2 men, Richie and his dad, came over with shooting arrows, bows and darts, which actually ended up being changed to a revolver. Still confusing. What does he mean? He tells the detective that Richie and his dad try and break in through the back door. The detective is now in complete and utter shock, and I think he's getting quite exasperated as well. He starts to become, I think, more standoffish, as in he wants to hear more, but he doesn't believe him, so he's probably in his head judging him, and again, assuming that he's trying to make a story to cover up the fact that he actually killed her.
Well, these people came over, Richie and his dad, with shoot and arrow, bow and darts. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
They hit me and her with those. That's it. And Heather wasn't there. And Eric wasn't there. It was just me and Heather. What was there?
You and Heather were there. And then what happened?
And that's it. Richie and his dad tried to break in through the back.
Richie and Dad? His dad?
Mm-hmm.
Who's Richie?
I don't know.
Well, you obviously know him. You know his name by
He
Richie.
used to live there.
Was he a roommate of yours?
He used to be.
And they hit you and they hit you?
Yeah.
Now it's Richie that hit you, not Heather?
No, Richie and his dad.
Richie and his dad. They hit you.
Yes.
Why?
Because they're trying to get their stuff. I don't know why.
And they had some kind of bow and arrows?
Mm-hmm. They each had 2 revolvers and they didn't let off any shells.
Okay, you just said they had bow and arrows. Now they have revolvers?
That's what I meant. They had revolvers.
They have revolvers.
Yes.
And then what happened?
And then they shot us with those.
They shot both of you?
Yeah.
Where'd they shoot you at?
I got shot in the eye.
You got
Okay.
shot in the eye
I think so.
with a revolver.
I think. I don't know, man. I don't know. Fuck.
The detective, however, does press him some more, and Ryan tells him he got shot in the eye. So 1 minute Heather did it, then Christina did it, and now he's saying he was actually shot by a revolver. So you can see the difference in stories, and you can kind of understand why the detective is getting a bit frustrated and exasperated, because he doesn't feel like he's getting a straight story. And you can clearly see that the detective doesn't believe him at all. He even tells him as much. He claims Ryan wouldn't be alive if he had been shot in the eye.
Okay. You're telling me you're all over the board here, number one. You're saying bows and arrows, you're saying revolvers, and you're saying some other thing, and you're saying they shot you in the eye. Okay? They shot you with a revolver in your eye.
Yes. And that's
Is
it?
it a BB gun?
No, it was a real gun, man. It was just a
If
revolver.
they shot you in the eye with a revolver, you wouldn't be talking to me right now.
How do you know?
It was most likely you'd be dead.
That's what I thought too, man. I really don't know.
Okay?
I really don't know, and I just want to go back to sleep and try to go back to bed.
You're not going back to bed. Okay?
But to me, Ryan now looks a little bit more alert in terms that he's more coherent and he seems more certain about what happened previously. Not as certain as in he would be 100%, but as if there was some kind of truth coming through his story. The story he's telling does sound crazy. The fact that he can't stick to one piece of information is not only suspicious but really annoying. He has now told the detective that Heather was shot in the side of the face, but he didn't do anything to help her, making him look even more guilty. At this point in the interview, it's been about an hour, and Ryan now starts getting more and more emotional. He definitely is appearing to trying to be helping, but he can't piece stuff together himself. He's now saying Heather's father and brother are Richie and the dad, and they shot her, but we know that's not the case. She isn't related to anybody called Richie. So it's just getting more twisted, but there's elements of truth in there. The one thing I actually picked up on quite quickly is that he told the detective he had been shot in the eye, and that never changed. I know initially he told them that Heather had hit him in the eye, but I think there is potential that when he was stood in his apartment and the detectives found the dead body of Heather, they may have spoken about the situation, saying that Heather probably hit him in self-defense, and maybe he heard that and he began to convince himself that that's what happened. But then while he was in the interrogation, it came back to him what really happened, and consistently from the moment he said, I was shot in the eye, that didn't change from that point onwards. The people may have changed, some of the circumstances may have changed, but the fact that he claims he got shot in the eye didn't. And this is actually the moment where everything completely changes. And I'm just going to let this footage play out, and then I'll be back and we'll discuss it.
Let me see your nose. Put your legs down. Put your legs down. Bring your face closer.
Oh, my head hurts.
Okay. Yeah, be right back. Hey, Ryan?
Yes.
I got the fire department coming to take a look at it. They're going to probably take you to the hospital.
You taking me to the hospital?
Yeah, we're going to take you to the hospital.
Why?
Well, if you've seen your face and the way you're doing things, it doesn't make sense right now, okay? We're just going to make sure you're okay.
I just want to go back to bed, man.
Well, that's the problem. If you have some kind of head injury, you shouldn't be sleeping, okay? Well, sit down. Sit down. There you go. All right. Okay. Hi, guys. Hey, guys. Captain, you're not going to believe this one. I can't believe it either. You're right. I've already heard the story. I can't believe it. This is just my observations that this might be an entrance, this might be an exit, this might be into his eye. And he's acting like he has a serious head injury, which would make sense. So,
What's your
you guys
name?
confirm?
Ryan.
Yeah, we'll take them.
I don't know why.
Yeah,
it's
we
like
can
that.
tell.
Did that all? Has it been like that before, or it just happened tonight?
It's like this for like a day or so.
So it happened what? The other night?
I don't know.
You don't know what happened. Were there guns around?
This kid Eric did it. I don't know how he did it exactly. It might have been shot. I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know.
It looks like it went right through, huh?
Yeah, it might have. I don't know.
And there's a
Let's just do blood pressure on it. Nothing we can do.
I got these 9:30 last night. It's like that.
No blood left out.
Yeah, there's nothing.
Just relax.
Oh, yeah. No, that's why I'm here.
Where you from, man? You live in town, or?
I was born in Michigan. I'm from here.
You got his name and everything?
Yeah, we got everything.
Blood's down there. Sit down.
No, he's
That's Mary?
separate Christmas, right?
Do you have the in-laws in town for Christmas?
Huh?
Do you have the in-laws in town or anything?
Think it's done.
124 over 70. 82 strong and regular. 69 over 1. I think so.
Well, Blake, your ride's here.
He's checked out.
Yeah, he's good.
Where?
What's up?
Where are we going?
We gotta go to the hospital. Get checked out, bro. Look like you got shot right in the face.
I don't even know.
So, shocked? Question mark? I was. As you've just seen, the detective probably noticing something wasn't right about Ryan's demeanour, his story and his injuries, asked to look closer at his face. He then leaves the room really quickly and says he'll be back. When he returns, he's a very different person. The detective, he's telling Ryan he needs medical attention immediately, and he says the fire department are coming. Once they arrive, he relays the story, saying, quote, "You're not going to believe this one," end quote, and then proceeds to point out where he thinks he can see an entrance and an exit wound from a bullet. Ryan is examined on scene and is taken to the hospital, and as it turns out, Ryan was telling the truth. Dun dun dun. He was, in fact, shot in the head, and then left for 6 hours without medical attention once he was discovered by the police. Over these 6 or more hours, he was progressively getting worse. The police completely and unfairly treated this man as a criminal without any evidence, and even though he had a vicious wound on his face, he never received a single ounce of medical treatment from the second he was found by the police on the 26th of December to the day that the detective noticed, or the moment the detective noticed, a bullet hole in his face. This is what we think the true story is. Ryan has helped with some of this, but he was still a very confused man. So it turns out that the story that Ryan told, although it was a bit all over the place and very confusing, was mostly true. On the 23rd of December, Heather and Ryan were at home watching movies, eating pizzas, when two men, Richie and Larry Carver, broke into the home. Richie was the son and Larry was the father. Richie was actually an old roommate of Ryan's and decided to get revenge on him after Ryan had kicked him out of the house. No one really knows why or what happened between Richie and Ryan, but either way, Ryan wanted to get his own back on him. There was a lot of speculation on whether Richie was doing drugs, selling drugs, stealing Ryan's stuff, or making passes at his girlfriend Heather. But again, these are just speculations, we don't know, so I'm not going to go into that. On that day of the 23rd, him and his father went to the house of Ryan and tried breaking in the back door. This is the moment that Ryan saw them and tried to stop them breaking in. He was then shot twice in the face at point-blank range with the gun and left for dead on the kitchen floor. Heather, who was on the sofa after hearing the gunshots, cowering on the sofa after hearing the gunshots, barely had time to react before the men walked up to her and shot her in the face once, where she died instantly. Assuming Ryan was dead, they took some stuff, they stole some game consoles and bits and bobs, and these two assailants left the apartment. However, several hours later, and amazingly, Ryan woke up. One of the bullets went through his nose and entered the front left side of his brain, where it stayed lodged. This left him confused and unable to react appropriately to what happened. He said he thought Heather was sleeping on the sofa, so he just simply got up and went to bed. The next morning he woke up, thought Heather was still asleep, and basically just walked around the house, not really knowing what he was doing until going to bed again that evening. Then the next day he did the same again. He walked around the house, confused, thinking Heather was asleep, when he was actually living with her dead body, and then he went to bed again. And then the next day is when the police showed up and the whole story started. Richie was ultimately charged with felony murder, burglary, aggravated assault and misconduct involving a deadly weapon, and he would get a natural life full term in jail, so he will never be released. His father Larry, however, would initially remain free. His evidence was less clear and it relied heavily on a confession he gave to his wife at the time, but she actually refused to testify against him and invoked a right that means spouses didn't have to testify against each other in court. However, Heather's family refused obviously to let this happen. They fought for the law to be changed and they called it Heather's Law, in which the police would be able to use evidence between spouses if given to them voluntarily. They still had to fight for this law, Heather's Law, to be used in the case against Larry, however, but they did ultimately win, and Larry was charged with first-degree murder, attempted first-degree murder, burglary, and aggravated assault. He would also received a full life term in prison. As for poor Ryan, once he arrived at the hospital, he was taken to intensive care in critical condition and ended up having to have surgery. They found he had 2 bullet wounds but 4 bullet holes in his face, and it came out later that Ryan had been shot in the tip of his nose, which came out of the bridge and then re-entered through his eye, going into the left-hand side of his brain, along with some bone fragments. The second bullet went in the side of the head, broke apart some of his skull, but exited a little higher up through his skull. They had to remove a large part of his brain, and either one or both of his eyes. We're not clear on this. There's many different conflicting reports about what actually happened to his eyesight. But ultimately, Ryan was never the same person ever again. He was forced to move back into his parents so they could take care of him, as he couldn't do him himself anymore. He was forever confused and struggled with basic things after his injury. He suffered with severe seizures. He was brain damaged. After this incident, he didn't really live a normal life anymore. Unfortunately, Ryan would have a seizure in 2016, 10 years after the shooting, and sadly he passed away. He was only 28 years old. So let's quickly talk about my opinion and the aftermath of this. So the most infuriating part of this case for me is that experts, including doctors, have said that if Ryan had received immediate medical attention after he was discovered, this may have ended very differently. He had clear damage before, as he was alone obviously for several days in the house, but with a head injury, every second counts. And those 6 hours with the police may have actually saved his life. but they were so certain he killed Heather that they neglected and didn't do what they were supposed to do in any case. Because even serial killers and rapists and child rapists have basic human rights, and if they are injured in any way, even if they're shot by the police after a police chase, they are entitled to immediate medical attention. So I don't necessarily understand why Ryan wasn't given this right as well. Furthermore, from what I can tell, the Phoenix police, because I don't think I mentioned it before, it was the Phoenix police that were dealing with this case, they never really faced any disciplinary actions, but I hope to God they have learned something, and other forces may have also learned something from their actions. Because even, like I said, even if he did kill his girlfriend, he is still entitled to basic human rights. But what's worse in this case is that he actually was an innocent man and he didn't do anything to his girlfriend. In fact, he loved Heather very, very much, and his life has been difficult since the moment that this happened. And I can't stop thinking about the fact that he may have survived, and he would never have been the same again, don't get me wrong, but he may have at least not been as severe as he was if the police had done their job. And this is a reoccurring problem in most of the videos that I'm doing, and that's not intentional, by the way. I do videos that take my interest, and most of the times it turns out that the police are a big part of bad things that happen. At the moment, I'm researching the case of Stephen Lawrence, who was a 19-year-old young black man who was stabbed in London in the 90s or the 80s, and the police also had issues there, and Stephen's family didn't get justice for over 30 years, and that case is coming up in a few weeks. But it's another case where the police just drop the ball, and it infuriates me and it frustrates me. These people are paid to protect people, and in this case they made an assumption that was wrong, and a young man lost his life, and it's just not fair. It's not fair. But that's all I have for you today, guys. I really hope you enjoyed this case. I want to thank Mr. Ballon once again for doing this case and piquing my interest. I hope I've done the case justice. I'm so sorry, and I send my condolences to Ryan's family and Heather's family. It's such a tragic case, and I'm just really sorry for your loss. I'm sure they would have been amazing people today if they were still alive, and I'm so sorry. Please don't forget to like, comment, share if you think the video is worth sharing, subscribe, hit that bell button so that you know every time I upload a video. I'm trying to continue doing it every Sunday, so it's my Slaughter Sunday series. I will be back with some midweek mystery stuff soon. I've just taken a break from that for a little while because I've got a lot going on, but they will be back soon, and I'm so excited to start on my next case, which, by the way, is a humdinger. But yes, that's it for today, guys. I care about you. I appreciate you. I love you. Please stay safe. Don't kill anybody. And if you're a police officer, please do your job. That's all we ask. Okay, I love you guys. Have a lovely day. Bye!
Jet planes in the night sky with you, getting high in the sunrise with you, getting through all the bad times with you. I wasn't missing a thing, now I do. And I wish that